Georgia O'Connor here. Big up Julius. Ring IQ. Welcome to the relay.
Welcome to the relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. The continued reactions to the controversy in the land of the rising sun ahead of Fulton versus Inoue, the hand wrap issue. Veteran boxing scribe Steve Kim tweeted, "Here's what a noted trainer who wraps hands told me via text. That's a bitch move. Dumb fucks should know that no matter how much gauze and tape is, or how you fold, roll, or bend the wrist, gauze, it'll never be harder than the bones. Knuckles, it's an illusion. I don't care if your opponents put tape on the knuckles, 2, 3, 4 rolls of tape on the hand. Go for it. As long as it's gauze and tape, knock yourself out." The misconception is that Inoue is breaking the rules. The misconception here is that Inoue is cheating. The Japanese Boxing Commission. In Japan, it's perfectly legal, and in some states here in the US of A, stacking the wraps, as it's referred to. Inoue isn't breaking any rules. The commission themselves don't have an issue with how he wraps his hands. It's Team Fulton that does. Before certain content creators in the YTBC get to posting headlines that Inoue is playing foul and he's cheating, these wraps are perfectly legal. At least in Japan they are, where this contest is taking place. Former champion Antonio Tarver said, as long as he doesn't go over the knuckle and he uses that set amount of tape and gauze, it should be allowed. In order to punch effectively, you have to have a solid wrap, and how good a wrap is can make all the difference in the world when you're punching. Your protection is of great importance. You hurt your hands, you're out of business. An angle of it that the critics and boo birds don't want to cover is that the added gauze could be to protect Inoue's hands. Inoue is a very hard puncher, more likely to suffer a break or a fracture as a result of the brunt of impacts on the other man, the man opposite the ring. Perhaps that's what the added gauze is for, added protection. Critics would have you believe it's for added power, as would Stephen Fulton's trainer, though if he's that concerned about that, giving Inoue some kind of a competitive edge, he can wrap Stephen's hands. Stack Stephen's wraps. Nobody's stopping you. Former fighter turned star trainer Robert Garcia said, Inoue has fought in Japan, the United Kingdom, California, and Vegas. All different rules on hand wraps. The result has always been the same everywhere he goes. Let's not discredit one of the best fighters in the world. Inoue versus Fulton is one of the best fights this year. Let's enjoy it. Some people can't because they're afraid of what's going to happen. What's going to happen on Tuesday morning. Stephen Fulton's trainer, Stephen Fulton's fans, they're getting cold feet. That's what I see. Same guys that have been trashing Naoya Inoue all this time, belittling him, his pound-for-pound status, and his accolades so far, now seem very nervous to me on the eve of this fight. In truth, Naoya's not breaking any rules. It's not the commission taking issue with how he wraps his hands. It's Stephen's trainer. Stephen's fans. Now, I don't even know that Stephen Fulton himself is all that bothered by it. Save a very small group, a substrata of hyper-tribalistic Americans here in America. Naoya Inoue, being every inch the fighter that he is said to be, does not fit into their little world, their little bubble, their narrative. They can't enjoy this fight the way we can. If Stephen Fulton wins, as far as I'm concerned, that's great. That sets a good example for other American fighters who might have been averse to traveling. Stephen will be yet another example that it can be done. You can win on foreign soil. It's if he wins. And if he loses, as far as I'm concerned, there's no shame in that. He would have lost to one of the best fighters the sport has seen in the last couple of years, a pound-for-pound fighter in his own respect. There's no shame in that. Though for some there is, that substrata of hyper-tribalistic individuals who watch boxing through a different lens than you or I. To them, boxing has less to do with boxing and more to do with their, where a fighter is from, what flag he flies, what he looks like. Your average boxing gym these days could have fighters within it from any corner of the globe, anywhere from Mongolia to Russia to China to Japan to the Philippines. American fighters, British fighters, fighters from all over the world. North America, Latin America, Europe, Australia. Fighters from all around the globe. You can find fighters from all around the world in a boxing gym. The YouTube boxing community and the online boxing community seems to differ from the actual boxing community, their opinions. Online is the only place that this kind of hyper-tribalism can exist. In truth, it really is only a small group, a substrata within a substrata of very vocal, albeit very small group of individuals that behave like this. But here's what you need to know.
What?
Naoya Inoue isn't actually breaking any rules. The commission doesn't take issue with how he wraps his hands. And if for some reason Stephen Fulton decides that he doesn't want to fight, he wants to withdraw, while Naoya Inoue is not in violation of any rules, what might happen is he might end up forfeiting the brown belt, forfeiting the WBO title, because in case you're not aware, Naoya Inoue is his mandatory challenger via his WBO Super Champion status, the designation that allows a champion, an undisputed one like Inoue, to move up in weight to the next division as that champion's mandatory.
That designation.
Crawford had it, Usyk had it, Naoya Inoue has it.
It's one reason Stephen Fulton might decide to stick it out and not withdraw.
It's one reason, though I can think of 3 million more, the tune of $3 million or close to it, for fighting Naoya Inoue in Japan, far more than that fight would have been worth in America. In truth, far more than any Stephen Fulton fight is worth.
Yeah, I can think of 3 million reasons Stephen will go ahead with the fight.
The whole thing is embarrassing, really. I don't know how these individuals are not embarrassed with themselves and their behavior. So obviously apprehensive, obviously afraid
Scared.
that everything they've been saying.
Just dogs barking behind the fence when push comes to shove.
Balls to bone, these guys are scared. They're afraid. I've seen it said in some quarters that this contest shouldn't even be allowed, that Stephen shouldn't have to travel.
All of the pretty little princesses here stateside are up in arms, panties in a bunch, that for once, it's the American that has to travel.
Kind of takes me back to Robert Garcia's comments on all of this, that Inoue has fought outside of Japan more than once. Given the celebrity that he has, if that were an American fighter with that kind of drawing power here in America, he'd never leave the country.
Naoya Inoue has fought anywhere from Las Vegas, Nevada, to California, to the United Kingdom, where stacking your raps is illegal, by the way.
Who'd he fight in the United Kingdom?
Then unbeaten IBF champion Emmanuel Rodriguez, who he stopped at the SS Hydro.
Glasgow, Scotland. It goes back to what Robert said. In spite of having fought in all these different places under different auspices from different commissions, the outcomes have been the same. Naoya Inoue is a knockout merchant. Before you go attributing his knockouts to stacked raps.
He's fought outside of Japan, you know.
Whereas Stephen, this is the first time Stephen Fulton will be fighting outside of America. And it's not because he's such a big draw here.
If Stephen Fulton had the kind of marquee value in America that Inoue has in Japan, do you think he'd be traveling abroad?
What Antonio Nieves at the StubHub, Carson, California.
He fought Maloney and Dasmariñas in Vegas. This is a guy who has enough marquee value that he don't have to leave his own neck of the woods. He doesn't have to fight abroad, but he still did.
So that he can now be slandered and accused of being a dirty fighter based on the apprehensiveness of Stephen Fulton's trainer.
And a few obtuse individuals.
I mean, I wouldn't even watch boxing if I had to cry this much.
If I had to make as many excuses and prop up as many narratives as these guys do, I wouldn't even watch it.
Miserable. They're fucking miserable.
It's pathetic.
I do think the fight is going to go on, though. I don't think that Stephen Fulton has traveled this far to turn back now.
Surrender the brown belt, surrender the WBO title, leave all that money on the table?
Because your trainer's got a case of the jitters. Who's in charge here? You or him? Men's middleweight and super middleweight news. Abel Sanchez on Gennady Golovkin. He went out with a whimper.
Reference to his former fighter, the former unified champion Gennady Golovkin.
Abel Sanchez has noticed that Golovkin has spent more and more time on the sidelines. Although the two aren't as close as they once were, Sanchez gives his conjecture on why Golovkin has remained out of the public eye. It's unfortunate, Sanchez told KO Artist Sports. Maybe his interest isn't what it used to be, and I respect that.
He used to run around telling everybody that he wanted all the belts, but then he became more of a businessman over time than a boxer.
With some success, a very shrewd businessman, he got paid a fucking fortune over there at DAZN. Abel Sanchez continued, it's unfortunate that it had to be with no fanfare. He just went out with a whimper. He just gave up everything. It's sad because what a great fighter.
Did he really go out with a whimper, though? Has he really called it a career? There's been no official word, no official announcement of Gennady's retirement, though one could be pending.
While he's active, while he hasn't retired, John Ryder, coming right after that loss to Canelo, would like to fight Golovkin in Kazakhstan in December to John, that would be a dream.
What does it cost to get Gennady Golovkin in the ring these days?
What would it cost to get him in the ring with John? John Ryder, who said, my birthday wasn't really a big one. I went and did a bit with Tony and the boys and took some stick. Everyone in there thinks I'm 45. It was nice to get in there. The break was good, but it was nice to get back in and see the boys and get going again. I'm moving house at the end of the month, so ideally, I want to get August out of the way, get into camp September time, and then get a November or December fight date. Golovkin in Kazakhstan in December would be the dream.
Given how both of those boys go about fighting a fight, John Ryder versus Gennady Golovkin would be a war, an all-action shootout, a fan-friendly fight. But is Gennady Golovkin still in the business of fighting in fights like that?
What's that guy, 40, 41 years old? He still wants to fight in wars? What would it cost Matchroom and DAZN to get Gennady in the ring with John?
It's not going to cost him because at his age, I don't imagine Gennady Golovkin is going to fight for peanuts on a dollar.
Just how realistic is that ambition for John Ryder, who moved to 32 wins and 6 losses as a result of the unanimous decision defeat to Canelo? I've heard that he's still not sure about boxing again at all, he adds. It's all down to him, but it's one of those where if he does decide to carry on, then
it will be me.
He just needs to decide what's what, but I think he wants the homecoming in Kazakhstan. I don't want to wait too long to see what's what, but he is deciding. It would be good to hear by the middle of August. Matchroom CEO Frank Smith spoke to Tony Sims and said that if Golovkin is going to fight again, then it will be John. That sounds positive. He must want to end his career on a defeat. I can beat Golovkin in Kazakhstan, then come back to the UK for Caleb Plant or someone else like that next year.
You gotta respect John Ryder's resolve after the beating that he took against Canelo Alvarez. He still fancies himself against Gennady. He still thinks he can beat him.
It's important to note that Gennady Golovkin has only ever lost to one man. He only has recorded defeats to the same guy. That guy is Canelo Alvarez. And John Ryder, well, we saw in John's last fight, he's no Canelo.
That he ain't.
John, who made a nice bit of coin in his last fight opposite the ring Canelo, the money from that fight might have helped to paint the front door on the new house he adds. It has played a part, that's for sure. It's always the dream to leave boxing with a house bought and paid for. Then you've kind of done your job. There are thousands of boxers who don't. I'm one of the lucky few to finish boxing with something behind me.
All this talk of Gennady Golovkin's potential retirement, he's not the only one courting retirement. John is as well. 1 or 2 more big fights, then that's it.
It's a wrap. One man who has spoken of his desire to set up an all-British clash with John Ryder is fellow London super middleweight Lerone Richards. But for Ryder, the fight does not tick enough boxes. That geezer is so boring, he says. It's not a fight that really interests me. He's left Eddie. He's left Dave Caldwell. What's going on there? Obviously, the Zach Chelly fight didn't happen, so I don't know what he's doing now. He's a good fighter, but for me, I want the biggest and best fights. I want to make some serious money, and fighting Lerone Richards won't do that. I'll have a meeting with Eddie in the next couple of weeks and we can sit down and see what's what.
Said it before and I'll say it again. If John can't get Gennady in the ring, one name that almost immediately comes to mind is the name of Jaime Munguia.
Jaime's supposed to be in preliminary talks to take on David Benavidez. I'm not holding my breath.
I'm not optimistic, and if things don't work out between them, one guy that Jaime can fight is John Ryder.
John, who said, I'll have a meeting with Eddie in the next couple of weeks and then we can sit down and see what's what. I'm not under contract with them. I'm a free agent, but obviously they've done good by me so far. So it's just a case of taking it fight by fight. I'm still sitting in a good position, really, because I can go where the offer is. I can flirt with Uncle Al Heyman and see what he might have to offer me, too. Matchroom are up for me to box wherever the best money is, and if it's not with them, I can go elsewhere. It's good for me.
It is, because that means that if Golden Boy has something to offer him for a Munguia fight, he can take it.
In an ideal world, it's a yes from Triple G, and then we are all in for that. But if that doesn't work out for John,
there's other options. As far as
Gennady's used to making a lot of money, and I mean a lot of money, fight by fight. And it's been that way for years now, though years later, now that he's not a champion, he doesn't have any belts, he's coming off a loss.
Marquee value ain't what it was.
Seems like the big drama show is over, or it could be.
It's like Sanchez says, this guy's going out with a whimper.
Silver lining is that he made himself a lot of money for his retirement, money for his family, money to move on from the sport of boxing. And perhaps that's why the fire doesn't burn as brightly in Gennady's belly as it used to. Finally, reference to other news at or around this weight, Bob Arum says Canelo will stop Jermell Charlo in 6 or 7 rounds. He doesn't seem to think very much of the junior middleweight division's current reigning undisputed champion. He thinks Canelo makes short work of him.
Well, Canelo will beat him easy. Charlo is not. Little Charlo? No. Canelo will probably knock him out in 6 or 7 rounds.
Far be it for me to question the annotations and anecdotes of Hall of Fame promoter Bob Arum, but I wonder that he's not being a little bit too dismissive of Jermell Charlo. I mean, I happen to favor Canelo Alvarez to beat him too. I happen to think that Canelo stops him. Very good chance that he stops him.
But I feel like there's a genuine challenge there that perhaps Bob isn't addressing, that Jermell, he is a taller fighter than Canelo, a longer fighter than Canelo, in some ways more fleet of foot than Canelo. You know that movement.
I mean, Canelo's got great head movement and great upper body movement, but foot speed.
After over 60 fights.
I think Canelo Alvarez showed great ability to close the distance in the Callum Smith fight, and definitely in the Caleb Plant fight. Caleb Plant back to the ropes most of the fight, moving lateral, trying to put distance between himself and Canelo. Canelo was able to effectively close in and put a hurting on that guy.
Where Jermell Charlo differs is I think he can fight on the fly a bit better than Caleb Plant can, and we saw that in his last outing with Brian Castano. The caveat is that last outing was over a year ago. In truth, both Canelo and Jermell go into this fight with handicaps. Canelo, to some, seems a shop-worn fighter.
Some is saying they see slippage, some is saying that Canelo's on the back nine. Maybe that's true, but with Jermell's never actually fought as a super middleweight. Even if he has a super middleweight's frame, the guy's 6 feet tall.
He's never actually fought as a super middleweight against a super middleweight, never felt super middleweight power, never fought a puncher as powerful as Canelo.
For a fighter the caliber of Canelo, is Canelo catching Jermell at the right time, or is it the other way around? Is it Jermell that's catching Canelo at the most opportune time? There's an intriguing question there. There's enough intrigue and enough there that this is a very interesting fight for me personally.
No, I will say that Canelo has seen more fighters like Jermell Charlo than Jermell has seen fighters like Canelo. I mean, adequate parallels.
Austin Trout. He could move, he could punch. Erislandy Lara, he didn't look great with Lara, but he fought him. He has those experiences to draw from. IBF middleweight champion Daniel Jacobs.
Caleb Plant.
Canelo Alvarez has fought fleet of foot fighters like Jermell more times than Jermell has fought fighters like Canelo, who have a wide variety of...
Canelo's offensive arsenal, it is extensive.
At least more extensive than any of Jermell Charlo's previous opponents.
Canelo doesn't have the fastest feet, but Jermell, he hasn't been that active, hasn't fought as a super middleweight. How is he going to carry that weight?
It's intriguing. For me, it's very intriguing.
Uncle Bob is giving Canelo about 6 or 7 rounds to do this guy.
Seems presumptuous to me. That seems bold. I mean, Canelo knocking him out is possible, but I feel like it's something that might happen in the later rounds, say round 8, round 9, maybe 10.
Jermell can't go 10 rounds with Canelo. Is that what we're saying? Is that what Bob is saying?
Sure sounds like it. Commercially, I think this is going to be a very successful pay-per-view. I do.
At least as successful as the Caleb Plant pay-per-view, and that sold 800,000.
This one might do more than that.